In previous videos, we talked about plow, or halasana, and shoulder stand, salamba sarvangasana, and the interplay between the two poses. Plow pose usually leads into shoulder stand. I now wanted to talk about some variations, things you can play with. When I use the word play in yoga, I think it's very important that we think about our practice in those terms. Yoga is serious. There's something that is going on when we're working with ourselves, when we're working with our bodies. We don't want to create situations where we would injure ourselves. There's this intense, think of a raptor, a predator bird, that focus that they have on a mouse on the ground. It's that sort of focus, but the practice also has a sense of mirth and play, a softness like a feather floating down to the ground. I constantly am playing with those two. The practice is serious. I have very specific goals for what I want for my body, for what I want for my health, that filter into the rest of my life. But I must remember to laugh at myself and remember that it's just yoga. I'll have the rest of my life to continue practicing. You can practice till the day you die. You can be 95 years old, no issues whatsoever. So, for halasana, which we'll go over first, some variations that make the pose kind of fun. You can lay on your pad again and position yourself. You'll find the top of the padding, as we've discussed. Slowly you'll kick back, up and over. You'll get your foundation first through the shoulders. And that extension through the spine that we talked about. The chin is tucked, you're looking up towards the belly button. You can see that it's still plow. Wide variation in how deep you go in. Just depends. Some days I'm more tight. I take it easy. Some days I'm looking for a little more extension, a little more rounding. Just depends. So the variations you can play with include walking the feet out to the side. You will begin to open up facet joints along one side of the spine. If you have low back pain, you're able to stretch specific muscles on one side of the spine. You can continue to walk yourself over. You can play with the pose. You can then slowly walk yourself to the opposite side. Playing with the pose. What does it feel like? If it feels uncomfortable, stop. Come out. Walk out. You can see that by playing. What can I do with the other leg? Is it wrong? No. You're just exploring the range of motion of your body. It's not the classic pose. But you have to develop a sense of working with your own body. The classic pose is there as a guide, but long term it's you. It's just movement. You can play with the other foot. You start to see that you can get a little stretch through the hips, through the gluteal muscles. You can also work on what? Closing the knees down, pulling the knees just into the forehead or above, out to the side. You can take the pressure off. You can tuck the chin. You can press the back of the head in. What do you want to do? What options does the pose allow? If you can't go into a full shoulder stand, what about this? It's half, right? You're working on it. You're still getting some extension. You can go back into halasana, and then you can try the opposite leg. Once we get to shoulder stand, we have other options. You can do half. Why not? You have to work on the balance, right? You can switch legs. You can have both legs up with the hands supporting. You can slowly have the legs come out if you have good support.
You can cross the legs if you're capable of going into lotus. I can. You can have the legs come down in various ways. You can twist the legs. So you see that it affords many variations in the pose. Things that you can play with. How do they make you feel? If you're up fully into Salamba Sarvangasana, you can play many variations, right? What's the pose for you?
What do you want to do? You can play and get extension through the spine. It's a deep lengthening. I would recommend again that if you're trying these poses and they're uncomfortable, come out. Not so much pressure. You have all the time in the world. When people have back pain, I almost always encourage that they take it easy in forward bends and they work harder in the back bends. We'll talk about that more on future videos on robertgardnerwellness.com.